webinar for the Breakfast Club in the PropTech series. This morning, I'm joined by the CEO of Bōde, Robert Price. Rob is on to some interesting things in PropTech. So we're going to talk a lot about that and how he's adding value to transactional and residential sales. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to introduce Intergen. Intergen, as many of you know, and for those of you who don't know, really born out of the need to connect scaling entrepreneurs and companies with our Intergen business advisors who provide a voluntary service in terms of advising companies on various issues as it relates to their growth journey. So shout out to all the IBAs and Intergen business advisors that are doing great work. And then I wanted to introduce or reintroduce our team. Sandy Gilbert, our CEO, Emily Hillman, community lead, Kyle Beckbomert, venture lead, and Tony Ignacio, marketing manager. So that's the team behind this production. And so Colliers are sponsoring the series. They're not able to make it this morning, so shout out to them. I think most of you have seen sort of what they do if you've joined the previous series. But yeah, Robert, thanks for joining. Let's kick it away. Tell us a little bit more about Bōde and sort of why you started Bōde. Like, how was it born?
Yeah, great to be here and love the Intergen team and the community that you guys are building. So awesome to be part of this. For me, the company really went back to my own experience in real estate, buying and selling property back in 2017. I was looking for my options, hoping that there was a digital option where I could simply do this all online and save a bunch of money at the same time, and quickly found that there wasn't any of those options. So I did what most of us do, which is hire an agent, and in this case, a good friend of mine, and felt through the process that I was really doing all the intellectual work. I was doing the pricing, I was doing the searching and values, negotiations. I was literally telling my agent, I wrote him a script to say in the negotiation. So I was feeling like I was doing all the, let's say, complex work, and he was more administrative and more or less in my way throughout the experience. And then I wrote him a $50,000 check at the end, which was very, very challenging, and found that he, when I was talking to him about it afterwards, he was saying, about half my deals feel like this. I feel like I'm kind of in the way. I'm not adding the value that I'd like to add, and that you could have literally just done this if you had another, let's say an online option. But the other half of my clients, they feel like they need the help. They need, whether it's apathy or they just don't want to understand it or just want to rely on me, the values there. So so fast forward a year, we sold our previous company, Axia, and then I took a brief 4-month retirement and came back to that challenge and came back to Jeff, who was my agent and broker of a 50 agent brokerage, saying, is this still a challenge? Are you seeing any change here in this dynamic? And he said, no, in fact, it's continued to be more challenging because property prices go up, commissions go up with it. So he and I actually were the 2 early founders, and then we added 2 more founders to put together this platform-based play, which is basically saying, can we start from scratch and focus on what would be an amazing buy experience and an amazing sell experience, leveraging technology? And that's where the model was initially born from.
Very cool, very cool. That's great. So you had the idea, you put the business model together. Since the first implementation of the business model and today, what have you learned in terms of your hypothesis and your overall value add, which is arguably different than what the realtors are doing?
Yeah, so from a business model perspective, it really is a platform play. So it's about half our business is consumer based, so buyers and sellers, independent homeowners, and then half our business is on the B2B side, new home builders and developers who have the same challenge of how do I find a really frictionless, modern way to attract buyers and plug them directly into my sales team, whether that sales team includes an agent or is just an unlicensed team. There's a strong need there for builders to maximize their exposure, understand the data and the criticality of what's going on a listing by listing basis, and then make that sell as many properties as possible. We're finding on the B2B side, our average home builder makes $500,000 more a year by selling with us. So that's bottom line profit. And so that's been a really exciting piece of the story and was always part of the original vision of being able to leverage this platform in both of those commercial streams. And then what we plan to do in the future here is also make this same technology available to other brokerages. We've had a number of brokerages come to us and say, we love your tech, we love your brand. Can we buy it? Can we license it? And that was also part of the original vision, which is to elevate and modernize the residential industry with smart application of technology. So that's been a really fun conversation. But to answer your question directly in terms of tweaking, one thing that we did on the B2B side that I think really transformed the business was originally we started with a percentage-based sell experience. So the builder would pay us a 1% fee upon sale. But what we found was that didn't really jive with the way the builders work. They preferred a flat rate. They preferred to look at this in kind of a different way. So what we came up with was a subscription model, which gives them an unlimited capacity to sell as many properties as they want, list as many properties as they want on a month-to-month basis with a 1-year contract, which has totally changed the complexion of where builders used to only list trouble properties or complete homes, which would make up a sliver of their inventory, like 5 to 10% of their inventory. With this, with the subscription offering, now they can list the property at any phase, pre-construction, mid-construction, complete. So it gives them this unlimited strategic flexibility. And then with our listing syndication, obviously on realtor.ca and Zillow, but also 1,000 other sites we've partnered with, their properties are everywhere that buyers are looking. So it's really connecting to the modern buyer that in Canada, 95% of us start our home search online. So our goal is to keep it online by creating this hub and spoke connection to all these listing sites that connect you back to the Bōde platform where a buyer can take action. And that action can be messaging, booking showings, or making an offer, leveraging all of our tools. So eliminating that friction and creating more buyers, both with agents and without agents.
Tremendous. That's amazing. That's great. So you talked about builders, you talked about individual owners. Have you found a sweet spot based on all your conversations around the individuals and the builders that really want to use your platform versus those that see it as a nice to have or maybe not overly relevant?
Yeah, it's been interesting. We started with the belief, being a millennial, a proud millennial, that we would be that would be kind of the main focus of our targeting on the B2C side. We're now about half the residential real estate market in Canada and the US. So that was our original focus. But what we found was our total, let's say our user base of the 700 transactions we've done, a lot of them, it kind of looks like the Airbnb from an age curve perspective. Many sellers in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. We've had sellers that don't have a laptop and have like an iPhone 3 that have been able to sell using our platform, which has been really exciting for us as one depiction of how easy we've made it. So it's kind of become a broader target zone than we initially envisioned, which I think speaks to the value of what we're doing. On the B2B side, it's really been the large guys. So we have, 40 of the largest home builders in Western Canada. When they have the scale and they have all the resources, we give them the capacity to leverage this platform, produce the data that they need often they don't actually have as good of data as you might expect for a large organization, very small, smart companies, but don't have good, let's say, transaction data, market data around what's going on at the actual individual customer level. So being able to provide that extra data to them is a huge level of transparency that helps them really do smart things as a company.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. I just put a message in the chat, everybody. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, but we'll take them live towards the end of the show. Robert, what do you guys experience as probably the most prominent objection when trying to sell your platform to individuals or to businesses? And actually, a follow-up question is, how do individuals find out about this? Like, have they found you online, or do you have agents that go out and knock on doors, or how is it?
Yeah, to answer your first question, it's definitely demystifying what we've been told as consumers and homeowners, that this is really complicated, this is really difficult, don't screw it up yourself. Like, if you go on your own, you're going to screw it up. And we just emphatically don't agree with that. And our traction to date proves that. And our NPS scores, our customer feedback demonstrates that actually it's not that complicated. And that's where technology is really powerful, because we literally create a paint by numbers automated experience for them. So I think that's the big perception that we need to continue to unpack and unbundle and empower and induce confidence for our sellers. And so, kind of to answer your second question, on the consumer side, that's been our best growth channel, is people that have sold successfully with us, telling dozens of friends and family members how easy it was, the fact they saved $15,000, and that they felt totally confident throughout the experience. Not to overstate it, of course, there's bumps in the road, there's challenges that people will have, but overall that experience has been really powerful for them. So the word of mouth and the virality effect of that, I've had a number of multiple sellers. We've had many families that have sold 4 or 5 properties within their immediate family through those referrals. So of course, we're doing media. We've got a lot of traditional media coverage, as well as your kind of standard omni-channel social media and other typical channel approaches. But our main goal is to blow the doors off that customer experience so that people are excited to tell friends and family.
Awesome, great. Art Korpach has a question here. How do you compare or contrast to Only?
Yeah, Only we would see as a partner to us. So Only is where we are a marketplace on the B2B side, of course, where they're focused. We're about finding more buyers and producing better data and creating a more seamless experience there in terms of directly with the sales team. If that buyer wants to, let's say it's a home builder like Shane Homes, I know is a key client of theirs, one we're talking to as well. If a buyer wants to come and customize a home or validate, or Shane wants to validate Only through that process, we would just funnel that buyer directly to those mechanisms. So it's actually a perfect complement of buyer behavior. If that's their preference, working with the builder, we're bringing those buyers to the table and giving them the tools, whether they want to make an offer on let's say a standard property or a complete property. They have the channel to that through our mechanisms directly with the sales team. If they want a custom build, they can go the other direction as well. But the other part of the buyer validation part of Only's service could be a really good fit with us as well. So we see them, we know they're smart guys over there. We've had some initial conversations, but definitely synergistic in the way that we approach the market.
Great. Thanks for that answer. If I could just do a quick follow-up. But if you're going to builders like Shane, others, are you in some ways then potentially cutting them out of that relationship with the builders? Or I know they're more focused on verification, and you're bringing this broader buyer community. But if you're dealing directly with builders, which I think is sort of their forte, you might also be competitors. Is that fair? Or
Well, I would say like they are, if you kind of think of the layers of it, we're really about finding those buyers in the first place. So that's our listing syndication. We're doing digital marketing for builders. And then we're funneling them, no matter where they find that property, we're funneling them back to where the builder wants them to go. So if they're working with only, and the builder wants them to go to the only, let's say only mechanisms, their home customization tool or their ID verification kind of approach, then we would send them directly there. So we're kind of earlier in the funnel, and then it's just a question of what the builder actually wants to do with that customer.
great, thanks very much.
That's the
My
question.
pleasure.
Rob, you've taken this company from startup to scale up in a very short period of time. What would you say are the 1 or 2 winning conditions that you had that allowed you to accelerate the business so quickly?
Yeah, it's been it's been super easy. No,
Right.
well, I think there's a number of things, but the thing I put the highest on the list is, we started this company right before the pandemic. So you're dealing with an immense amount of uncertainty. There's capital market uncertainty, there's real estate market uncertainty and craziness and historical fluctuations. There's how do we work as a team? We're not allowed to see each other. So organizational challenges. We're of course building the platform as we go. We're refactoring it, and so there's the tech challenge that goes with that. And during the pandemic, finding tech resources was almost impossible, with Google and Facebook paying an intermediate dev $200,000 a year. So a lot of that, you can get consumed by that. And I think the key thing for us was never losing sight of that customer experience and the customer value. It's easy to get lost in the mix of all the things you're doing, all your internal challenges, your operational complexities, externalities you can't control, but still sticking with and being totally sound on the approach to always consider what we call customer centricity, where no matter what decision you're making, you're always considering how does it affect the customer and their experience and their value. So I would say that has been our key ingredient. And you can say on one hand, everybody in business is lucky, I would say, to some extent. We kind of believe in creating our own luck, because on one hand, the pandemic helped us because people were looking for online options in higher volumes than they were before, because of course they couldn't even talk to an agent or couldn't go, have any actual human interaction. So that helped us on that side. But then the flip side was these crazy markets and huge fluctuations, and trying to get a sense of how that variable in the mix of our growth strategy. So I think the second thing is just staying calm and not getting lost, not getting too high or too low. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but given the situation we were in, I think even more critical to stay in that performance zone and stay focused on the customer experience.
That's awesome. I love that customer centricity. You just announced expansion to Ontario. I mean, that's a big market, a little bit far away from headquarters in Calgary. What was your decision making matrix around Ontario versus BC? That's closer, similar sort of demographic, buying behavior, like super inflated housing prices, lots of buyers locally, internationally. Why did you choose Ontario over BC?
Well, we're actually live in BC as well. So we are Alberta wide, British Columbia wide, and then now just launching in Toronto. But to your question, the nature of our model is such that because it's a platform, we have tech unit economics. We don't have the consultative bricks and mortar, the human capital challenge of having to expand your team every time you enter a new market. So for us, it's a huge advantage for us to be able to launch in a new, when we designed our tech to do this, simply apply another market to our platform. And in Toronto's case, we're adding 20,000 listings to our platform, 300,000 sold records, and a market that is the size of Alberta and BC combined, by simply connecting to APIs and integrating contracts and becoming licensed. So it's really, we've designed, and that was always part of the original vision, is creating this immense leverage of a customer experience that's the best in class, where the customer has an awesome, an awesome experience, and then ultimately is saving that $15,000 to $20,000. In Toronto, it'll be more like $30,000 to $40,000. All the while on our team, we're investing in that online experience. We're not investing in adding hundreds of people to provide a human consultative service, so to speak. So that's really where the industry has never been able to put a model like this together. And then that, of course, makes us highly scalable. And we have the US in our sights as well over the next 6 to 12 months. I should say 12 to 18 months to be more realistic. But that approach is, or that overall market adoption, market size is really exciting for a platform like this. Like, you combine Canada and the US, it's about a 200 billion a year revenue opportunity. So that's the big picture. Be bold and bring this value across North America.
Awesome. That's great. It's great. So you've got lots of things on your horizon, and you're integrated with insurance brokers in terms of bringing insurance policies to buyers. You're integrating with the mortgage brokers in terms of bringing capital to buyers. So there's things happening on the product roadmap side. You're expanding and building lots of traction across the country. How do you balance the tension between resource allocation, time and money, people, between building product and growing, because those are always limitations, resources. So love to hear your kind of point of view on balancing that tension.
Yeah, I think you can, it's what makes tech really awesome and powerful, but also really challenging, is you can do anything with it. So, and especially in this industry that is severely lacking tech, is severely lacking modernization that so many other industries have been able to achieve. So it's an interesting one big learning for us. We used to have what we call an idea catcher. So every Friday, or every second Friday, we'd have the whole team, the whole company in on pitching an idea about what could enhance our platform, what could enhance our user experience. And while we have really good ideas and really creative people and really smart people, I think that can be counterproductive, because there's so many ways you can cut it. You can you can lose focus if you try to chase too many of those ideas, instead of really being focused on demand profiling and going through that whole interaction with your customers on a regular basis. Focus on fewer items, and then bring that intelligence back from a customer experience or customer feedback standpoint, to really validate what you should do and see how well that resonates. Because often you can end up in an echo chamber without knowing it, talking about all your amazing ideas internally, and everybody feeds off each other. But if you lose sight of that, might sound great internally because you're looking at the world differently through your lens in operating the company, but to the market, they might not have a clue what you're talking about. So I think that being really rigorous about testing concepts and pulling people in, running surveys, doing interviews. We're actually in that process right now with one of the key items on our roadmap, which is an auction tool, getting our customer feedback on would they like that option as a additional style to sell their property. Currently, you sell the traditional way, which of course is totally confidential in terms of backroom dealings.
Mhm.
Offers are not transparent. So to a seller, if you had this option to auction your property where you simply set the reserve price, you take two weeks to market it, everything's all predetermined and binding. If anybody is able to achieve that above that reserve threshold, it eliminates the negotiations, eliminates all the condition removal steps. So a number of pain points could be eliminated that way. So we're really excited. We like have the vision of seeing that would be a really exciting option and style for our sellers to be able to start one way. You could start the traditional way and flip to an auction. If you have a number of, let's say you have 5 buyers that are competing, I'll turn it into an auction and give them 48 hours and let the best person win. Or alternatively, start as an auction and you don't hit that threshold, didn't get quite the demand you wanted, turn into a traditional listing. And that's where tech is powerful. That's a click of a button. So just using that as an example where we're talking to, set out a survey, we got 400 responses. So we're doing all the quant and qualitative analysis on it. And then we're also 80 people signed up to have interviews with us and give feedback on it. So a big source of demand that way, which is exciting as well. So we've been interviewing them and getting more color on the idea. So bit of a long-winded answer to your question, but that's, I think, critical for any tech company, but especially one in real estate where there's such a void of technology and you could do so many different things.
Right. That's amazing. That's great. Cool. So Rob, as you know, Intergen's all about advising companies. And question to you is how has, have advisors who've come into your life professionally and personally been had a positive impact on you driving Bōde, but also Bōde getting to where it is so fast today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've had great conversations with the Intergen team. So that's been a lot of fun. I started this company in a unique way where I started with a full board and 3 advisors right out of the gates because I knew how big the opportunity was, but also how big the challenge is. So I wanted the gray hair in the room, so to speak, on the board, people that have been through it before and can help right at the start make the right decisions early that have a long-term impact. So for me, the ability to have a board, even as a brand new entrepreneur, puts you into the right operating headspace where you still have to, on a quarterly basis, we're having our strategic reviews, we've got budgets, we run all the, let's say, high-performing operational protocols. But it's easy for even me when you're starting, I'm doing 4 or 5 jobs, you can get lost in the details, and you don't want your CEO to get lost in the details. You want your CEO to never lose sight of the big picture, and having the board there from the start forces you to have the big picture conversation because you need to package the information, think about the company in that way that allows them to be smart. So you have to elevate and come up from the battle every 3 months at minimum to say, all right, how are we actually doing the picture here, quarterly basis, not every day, every hour, every minute, over this 3-month period, how are we doing? And then 6 months and then a year, and you layer on, those comparisons gives you the right big picture. So to answer your question, absolutely critical. And I'm not suggesting every company do that, but for me, in the way that I think, it was really helpful.
Very cool. So Rob, this is not your first business. What has been sort of this business and businesses before? What's been your biggest learning on this entrepreneurial journey?
I think it's the excitement is that I often tell Holly, my fiance, when I come home and and 3 or 4 things go sideways in a day. And she says, what are you going to do about it? And I just say, find another gear. And she's really tired of me saying that. But fine, like she knows how hard I'm working, just work harder, but also work smarter. And so I had the advantage in my life of being surrounded by a family of entrepreneurs. Sunterra is our family business. That's my dad, his brothers, my grandparents as well. So I saw the work ethic just being at home. I saw the work ethic every day growing up. And so I expected that. I expected to do that, to have to take it to that level, to live and breathe it. But you still, even with all that, it's still more than you planned for. So you have to be, it's not for everybody, and you have to really like pressure. And I do really like pressure. That it's like a sport in that sense. It's like I walk to the office and I'm gearing up to play a sport, go into a competition is the kind of the way that I think about it. So one big thing that I've learned is, to answer your question again, is the difference between pressure and stress, and intellectually understanding that line. Like pressure is great. If you don't like pressure and you don't like the opportunity that is driving that pressure, you shouldn't be in a new company like this. That's fine. We're not all cut the same way, but you should like the pressure. You should embrace the pressure.
Right. Yeah.
When that pressure goes past the point where you have everything that you need to be able to actually deliver on what is driving that force, that bleeds into stress. And when it's stress, that's not healthy for you, for your team, for your home life. So it's constantly understanding that line as a leader, and in my own personal role, and being critically able to determine what that is and identify it and talk about it as a team, and make sure that people, if they feel that pressure turning too much into stress, then what are the ways that we can help out, make sure that we can alleviate that and just come back to high pressure, because it's never medium pressure, low pressure. It's always high pressure. So you're just always on that line.
Right.
And so I think that was a really important revelation for me, through, especially during this really unpredictable time on top of starting a company.
Right. I love that delineation between stress and pressure. It's it's a great analogy. Pete Gemmell, we'll come to your question in the Q&A. Just got one more question on my end. And that question, Rob, is what kind of help do you need from a group like this? We've got lots of entrepreneurs and business people and some investors on the call. Where's the company going, and how can this group, and more broadly our Intergen community of several thousand people, be of support to you?
Well, I think even just having these conversations are awesome. I think it's one of the biggest things. The thing I get the most energy from as an entrepreneur is talking to other entrepreneurs, because when you're a CEO and a founder, you're one of one in the company in that sense, right? Like the board has peers, the rest of your management team has peers, and so on through the company. So when you talk to other CEOs, there's a level of connection there and community that is really, really hard to find in kind of any other way. A level of understanding that other people might not have because they've got their peers. And yes, Sandy, I can see that point. Yeah, absolutely. From a professional context, it can be lonely. So I think that's a big part of why a community like this is awesome. We are in a fundraise, so we are midway through we're calling a late seed round, and making a lot of progress this year, and on a fast track to profitability here, or break even to profitability here by the end of the year or Q1 next year. So if there's any investor interest, happy to chat on that front. And then just would love feedback on the model, and and introducing anybody that you think would be interested from a home sell perspective. Love to chat with that community as well.
Awesome, that's great. Rob, you've been an amazing guest speaker. We got a few more minutes, so I want to open up the call to Q&A, and Peter's got his hand up or a question in the chat. But Pete, if you want to come online and ask your question, that'd be a little bit better.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks,
Thanks.
Robert. That was fascinating. And my question may be a bit naive because I'm not in your industry, but what's taken so long for this concept to become a reality? Because I remember talking about it with other realtors before, and I just kind of curious. It's taken a long time. I actually just signed up to Bōde. Definitely gonna check it out and hopefully use it. So I'm curious.
Awesome. Oh yeah, thanks, Peter. I think it's a combination of factors. It's often innovation, is my opinion. Innovation and significant like transformation of industries doesn't come from within. Otherwise taxis would have invented Uber, or CNN would have invented Facebook, or Yellow Pages would have invented Google. I think you get to, and the conversation I was having with Jeff, my co-founder, when we put it together, he for the first 6 months, he was saying, well, we can't do that. I was saying, why not? So, well, because he has all the history of reasons and baggage for not being able to do it. So I have the advantage of, and the rest of my leadership team, of coming at this with my own personal experience, which is a small kind of piece of the puzzle, but no baggage, so to speak, and being able to see it from a customer perspective and start with a blank slate. So I think that's one big factor. The other big factor is people haven't been that confident buying big ticket items online for all the way up until, I would say, in the last 5 years or last 3 years. So it's really finding that level of confidence. Of course, most of the market, if you say smartphone adoption is 90+%, and e-commerce in total is growing like crazy. So this is kind of the last big industry that hadn't really gone down this path. And I wouldn't have started this company 10 years ago, because I think people would be too nervous from a behavior perspective doing something this big online. But in that just the growth that we see, and the millennial crowd that lives on, has the phone's an extension of their body, that really creates the tailwind, I think, and why this window is now to really do this.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Hey, Robert, I'll bug you a little bit. Sandy here. Great conversation today. And Peter, I love your question, like, why has this not happened until now? And there's many things that, I used to watch the Jetsons, I think, at some time in my life, and I'm still wondering why cars aren't flying around up there in the sky. But it does take a lot of courage and a lot of just saying, why not? And it resonated with me a little bit, Robert. I'm in this securities, online security space, and I know way too much about securities regulations that I'm always the one going, oh, I don't think we can do that. But Carta was started by a guy that had no idea how a transfer agent worked. And your comments about Uber, the same thing. So if you need to surround yourself with people that have domain expertise, but you also need the naysayers and the why not. And I don't understand why we can't do that. So I think it's good to build your team that way. So 100% domain expertise isn't what a good team needs. They need the person that's thinking outside of that box. And I think you've done that well with you partnering, obviously, with somebody that's from the space.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. The Airbnb is another good example. Would a hotel create an Airbnb platform? Like, you can't possibly conceptualize how that would actually come to fruition. So yeah, I think that's you need the blend. I think the blend is critical. Jeff on our team, we're talking to him all the time. We're saying, how would this work? Could we make this happen? How would the regulations fit? And So it's critical to have that kind of that blend of me being bullish and pushing the envelope, as well as having Jeff also saying, we can't actually do that. That's pushing it too far. So how do we still fit in this? Because we are regulated, how do we fit in this box, but still deliver this truly transformational experience? Looks like there's some more.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to unmute somebody else instead of me. Just one question I see Trish put in the chat. What is the rest of, this is the $64,000 question. What do realtors really think about Bōde?
They love us.
Right on. Good answer.
Well, I think it is interesting. I often get this question. It's one of the first questions I get, and I think it's a blend. So you have, a significant portion of realtors that we've talked to have actually wanted to work for the company. They've applied for a job because they're basically saying, I see this as the future. How do I be part of this? So that was unexpected, but quite cool for us. And then there's the vast majority of them, which just deal with us every day. Like we'd have 1,200 agent accounts across Western Canada right now, because when they're representing a buyer, they're still involved in the transaction. So we're dealing with a lot of them that way. And then there's a small segment of them that are squeaky wheels and are, don't understand what we're doing, think this is just another flash in the pan thing, are frustrated by it, but still ultimately end up doing business with us because when they get paid, that's what they're in business to do. And so, like any industry in Canada, we have 120,000 agents. So it's in the US almost 2 million. So we're talking about a whole bunch of individuals, and that's another interesting part or dynamic in this industry. It's really not us going head to head with other companies. It's a bunch of individuals that are out building their own Rolodex and running their own mini business, so to speak. So, but the other big picture part of this that I alluded to is we also want to help them. So I didn't start this company because I thought agents were evil. I started this company because I thought the industry needed to modernize, and I wanted to create choice and competition in a market that has been highly commoditized. So I always had, and we plan to apply this technology and make it available to other brokerages so that they can deliver a better, more transparent experience for their customers, and also save the time doing a lot of the manual things that they do, which is also inefficient for their business, not fun, and slows down the consumer side of the experience as well. So we're excited to bring that to the market, and that's a borderless solution. In our case, it's simply making the tech available. It doesn't matter, licensing doesn't matter. So we can sell that instantly across North America on a tech B2B SaaS basis. So excited to take that step as well, because I think, coming back to the Uber analogy, everybody thought Ubers were going to blow up taxis. They haven't. They're just creating competition, and that competition has created more choice for consumers and a better marketplace. So that's very much our headspace.
Kind of reminds me, we had a chat GPT session last week, and Nick from Helsum said, is AI coming after your job? No, but somebody using AI is. So it's very true. Like, what tools are out there to make people better at their jobs? So thanks. And I think there's a couple other questions there, Khaled, if you want to jump in.
Yeah. So Jerome, I think he's from Ontario. Jerome, jump on in. Welcome to the show. So it's J. Jerome, not Jerome.
Thanks. Just quick question regarding how you would help address or help alleviate concerns from maybe people looking to sell that are perhaps used to traditional methods of selling, by picking up that phone and calling that realtor, having that in-person dialogue, and then also alleviating the concern and giving them the I guess the security blanket to know that they can rely on, say, a cloud-based solution to conduct pretty much almost 100% of that real estate transaction?
Yeah, great question. So we do have, under Jeff's team, we do have a customer success team. So if you, at any point when there's questions, we're there to help all the way along the process, and through all modern methodologies, like you can chat at us, you can text us, you can call us. Lots of people are their main preference, our customers' main preference is to text. So we're happy to meet them there in that kind of medium. Often we see the most support happening when the seller receives an offer and it comes in and they look at it and they say, this all looks good. Can you look at this contract and make sure that I'm not doing something crazy, like just do another scan of this? So often we'll take 5 to 10 minutes and summarize the key terms that they should pay attention to, because the contracts are actually standardized. Often the public discussion or discourse around it is it's all very complicated. You have all these different contracts, you all have all these different terms. Well, actually, on a province by province basis, it's the same contract every time. It's boilerplate. It's just whatever conditions that you write into the offer. So we'll summarize that for them, play it back to them. They'll look at it and say, great, and then accept the offer and move on. So that's one key part that we help support them with. Another key part is when they're determining their home value, we have all the data tools that can give you the full context or texture of what your value is. But often they'll still want to have a call with us and validate what they're thinking. And so we'll be happy to have those conversations as well. So really, we've created an experience where you can take it online, end to end, buy sell journey all the way through. You don't have to. The key principle is you never have to talk to one of us. So if you want to, fantastic. We're there at any point to help you through your journey. And of course, everything that our customers are doing is tracked. So we're right on top of where you are in your selling process, and to give people comfort whenever they need that call or need that interaction, even if it's just a text back and forth.
Thank you. And just to follow up to that, if I may, and I'm not sure if national media has covered this, but in Ontario, there has been some concern about title fraud and people trying to sell property under the owner's, concerns. And I'm just wondering if there are, I'm sure there are security measures in place, but could you speak a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, that was the second part of your question I didn't answer. So on the validation or security front, we give the seller the choice of when a buyer
Rob, I think we lost sound. At least for me, I did.
Looks like you got a bandwidth issue there.
no luck.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're back now. Yeah.
Okay. I was just saying, so I have the seller determine if they want to have the buyer ID verify before seeing the property, and that's a ID and face validation that cross references a bunch across a number of government websites or government data sets, I should say. So that's a key part of creating security, and we haven't had any issues on that front as a result. So taking a page out of Airbnb's book on that one. And then, yeah, when it comes to this fraudulent activity, in our case, we always will do a title search and a title validation and ID verification of the seller. So if you're a realtor and you're showing up and you're looking at a driver's license, which is basically what they do in person, meet up somewhere and look at it physically, or even just a picture sent over a phone, the ID verification tech that we have is actually much more sophisticated than that. So we create a much more robust connection to verification on that front. But you're right, it's certainly a big challenge. And as you may have seen in our launch a couple of days ago, we're offering anybody that has had to go through that experience to sell for free with us as a measure of of knowing how important that is and how important our home assets are, trying to extend and help out in any way we can on that front.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions, everyone. That's really good. Rob, software free if you've been affected by title fraud. A good marketing tactic. Yeah, if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank Rob Price from Bōde again for sharing his time with us and telling us about Bōde. Rob, the feedback in the chat here has been very positive about what you're doing. So congratulations again. And a couple more things. We have a Q2 starting in a couple of weeks here. So we're jumping into a climate tech series, Breakfast Club series. We're just finishing our prop tech series. So stay tuned for that. The link is in the chat. So I encourage all of you to register. Very topical subjects and amazing companies lined up. And then finally, I want to thank our sponsors without whom we wouldn't be here. And our sponsors are RBC, the top 7 over 70, Synovus, Sandstone Asset Management, Prairies Canada, and Calgary Economic Development. So thanks all for joining and see you soon. Have an amazing rest of the day and rest of the week.
Thank you, everybody. It was a lot of fun. Cheers.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, guys.